Man, that was quick. I like it. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It is 2020. A very happy new year to you. Thank you guys very much for joining me here on the Season 2, Episode 1 premiere of Hitting the Wall. We are back for 2020 and very glad to be here. I hope everyone had a great holiday, had a great Christmas, had a great New Year, that you were safe, everything went well for you, and now we're into 2020 and ready to just kind of throw ourselves into this new year. I see we've got somebody on, so we're definitely on, which is always a good thing. So, hey, we're officially back in the 20s now. So how cool is that? Like the roaring 20s all over again. So if I don't see anyone in like a flapper outfit here pretty soon, we're going to have a problem. So make sure that you do that for me if you would be so kind. So the one thing I want to really emphasize as we kind of start this year and we start this season and we get into it is I really want to invite you guys to give more listener feedback on the things about the show that you like, the things you don't like, things that you might want to talk about, subjects that we can cover, because let's be real honest, I've almost done this for 3 years now and I'm running out of ideas. So please, if there's anything you guys want to talk about, let's talk about it. I see we've got some people in the room right now. Yes, Rebecca loves the new set. We're going to go over that here in just a second. Let's see, Deanna's in. Hello. So let's go ahead and do that. So there's my invite for this season and any future seasons that come after this. Please let me know what you guys want to discuss and things that we can talk about on a week-to-week basis. So as you can see, we have a brand new look here as we kind of threatened at the end of last season. We have a new background and a new table, and we actually have decent lighting in here. This was all provided by a listener of the show who took care of all of our needs for this awesome set. So to Jenny, we say thank you very much. Very much appreciate it. I'm digging the look. I am. I'm liking it. I think we had to get me back from the screen a little bit. Previously on the show, I was so close you could kind of see the pores on my nose. We had to back that off a little bit. I'm way less scary at a distance, and so it worked out well. But I think it looks really great. So hopefully you guys like it. We're going to keep tinkering with it. We're going to keep doing things with it. We've got some ideas in the works. So this is not going to be the end-all be-all, but yeah, I like the way that our new backup looks. So there we go. Cool things happening here in the Hitting the Wall podcast studios, shall we say. So that's, let's see, I've got, I want the feedback for this year. That's my big thing. Feedback. I want to know what you guys want to talk about. The new set. And so now I'm going to kick in with a public service announcement. Yes, a public service announcement. A PSA, if you will. And the reason I'm going to do this is because I had such a terrible experience yesterday. I want to make sure that nobody else has to suffer through it. So as I'm in my office doing my day job, which, believe it or not, this podcasting doesn't quite pay the bills, I go back to our 6th floor shared kitchen area to find one of the executives with Lysol naps wiping things feverishly. And I walked into the room, and as I'm about 3 or 4 steps in, he hears my footsteps and he spins around and says, "Don't come in here." Oh no, what's going on? I mean, is this like a chemical spill? What's happened here? So what happened was a coworker whose identity has remained anonymous came into work with the stomach flu yesterday. And when she could no longer contain the illness within her, she made sure to spread it to almost every corner of our 6th floor shared kitchen that I had walked into to refill my water cup. So I'm not pleased, thankfully. Knock on wood. I now have a new wood table. I can do that. Knock on wood. I am going to avoid any illness, but I was all up in it as they were trying to clean it up. Our kitchen was closed down. They had to call in the cleaning crew to sanitize it. They said, if you go in there, avoid the refrigerator, the shelving, the ice machine, and the sink. Okay, well, that took care of just about every part of that room. So even my lunch was held ransom yesterday in the work refrigerator, and I could have just lost my stuff. So the public service announcement is, it's cold and flu season, y'all. If you're sick, stay home. Your job is not that important. They will be okay without you. And yes, if it sounds like I'm a little upset and on a soapbox, you're right, because I could not have been more furious yesterday. So anyway, let me try and bring myself down from that one, because I was fired up. Yes, if you're sick, stay home. I don't want to get what you've gotten. Yes, I had my flu shot, but still, come on, I walked right into the room where it was all over the place. But I digress. Anyway, I do want to shout out. You can kind of see, like, I'm wearing a shirt tonight, and really, when I'm looking at my reflection, all I can see is the word murder on it. This is a band shirt. It's called Murder the Crow. A good friend of mine from high school is in that band, and they are down in Florida, so I'm repping their gear tonight. I did notice in my reflection, you can't really see much else other than the word murder. Not sending strange messages here tonight. It's a band. It's a band in Florida. You can look them up on Facebook. Tell them I sent you. Give them a like. Everything will be great. So let's dive into what we're talking about tonight here in the first episode of 2020. And if you are a longtime viewer / listener to the show, this is not a new thing. It's something that we do every year, but I think it's important to do. And that is just kind of talking about the year that we're heading into and the way that I like to equate it. So for the third time now, because this is our third New Year's show, we're going to start off by talking about the dash. Okay? So as we all know, we have January 1st, 2020. It's going to end on December 31st, 2020. And those 2 days mean basically nothing, except we had New Year's Day off, and then New Year's Eve, you may or may not go out. You may or may not make it till midnight. Those 2 days do not define a year. Okay, here, we'll do our visual aid. What matters is this right here. This is the dash that is the whole sum of 2020, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Now, there's something different about this particular dash, and as it pertains to this year. And you guys might think it's a little odd that I'm going to open the season with this topic, but by the end of the year, I don't think you're going to find that it was that odd. So there is a wrinkle to this dash here in 2020. And as I've looked at the dash for 3 years now, there's some realizations that I've come to, again, with 3 years of doing this particular show. So the dash, as I've looked at it now, the dash is not always fair. Okay. There are going to be some people who start this year, who start that January 1st, as maybe a married couple or in a committed relationship. And through the course of the dash, through the course of the year, that situation could end, and they could find that on December 31st, they're no longer in that situation. Okay. And on the flip side, there might be those who are starting the year alone, and then by the end of it, they maybe have found that love of their life for someone, or, at least I hope so. There are those who are going to add to their family during the dash of this particular year. And then, unfortunately, as we've found lately, there are going to be those who don't actually see the end. And that's an unfortunate part of this life that we live. But, I want to stress the importance of how we need to love each other, and how we are all ultimately just traveling this same road of life, and that our little differences are not enough to make any of our travels along the dash, as I call it, or ultimate destination somehow better than anyone else's. So, my traveling along, whatever I do with it, however mine works out, it doesn't make it any better or any more important than yours. And I hope that makes sense. We're going to kind of circle back around to that, because I bring this up for one reason, and it's the very uneasy and real, let's just say, sickening feeling I have about 2020. Okay, because we are going to have in our lifetimes, and I'm assuming a lot of the viewers are pretty similar to me in age, anywhere from, let's say, mid-20s to maybe 50. That's the bulk of the people who watch this show. So in 2020, I think we're going to have probably our most bitter, our most hurtful, our most upsetting, our most spiteful, our most vengeful, malicious, disgusting, and separating presidential election that any of us have ever lived through. Okay? Tell me I'm wrong. I could put the little sign on there that says it's going to be all of these things, change my mind. Because that's exactly what it's going to be. We're heading for an absolute destructive bomb of an election season, and it's going to do everything it can to rip us all as far apart from each other as we can possibly go. Again, pretend there's the little sign on my table that says, prove me wrong. Okay? So while the rhetoric is going to be flying, and so the media is going to be seething mad, and you're going to have your people like Bill O'Reilly, who's going to be screaming at the top of his lungs and a little vein pulsing on his forehead. Then on the other side, you're going to have someone like Bill Maher, who's going to be shouting his venom just through all of his different platforms, and just that he has that almost satanic smile on his face as he's just ripping the other party from limb to limb. We're going to have both of these things going on for basically all of 2020. Okay, and so we're going to think about right there, okay, so there's our dash. From January to December, we're going to have to deal with this hate that is getting spewed in all directions from both sides as we go towards our presidential election. And so in the grand scheme of your life, from start to finish, let's think about it on the dash. Let's think about this year, and then our dash is not only from January to December. Take it further. Think of the day that you were born, and think of the day that you finally check out. It's an even longer dash. And if you think of all the relationships that you've built in your life, are you willing to throw them away based on one short season? Again, in the grand scheme of things, it's just a short season, this political season. Are you willing to sacrifice it all? Because you're going to see that happen. You're going to see people who damage relationships and who damage friendships and who damage themselves and others, all because of these political ideals. And I'm not saying you can't be passionate about politics. You can. But again, in the grand scheme of your life, is it worth the damage that's going to be caused in this political season? Is it worth the damage to your friends and to your family, maybe even to your own self-respect? Because let's all be really honest. We've all gotten in political debates or political discussions, or let's call them what they are, political arguments, where we've taken it a couple steps too far. And in those couple of steps too far, by the end of it, we're really not even feeling that great about ourselves. I mean, hey, maybe I'm wrong, but I know that I've absolutely been there myself. So, really, only you guys can answer that. Is it worth it? Is it worth it for a political argument? Because let's be real honest. You can post all the stuff that you want on Facebook, and you can tweet and retweet all the stuff you want on Twitter. When you really knuckle down and when you really are trying to press home your point, do you really think you're changing anybody's mind? Do you think that you're making a difference, or are you only helping them become more entrenched in what they already thought? Of course that's what's happening. No one has ever said, oh my gosh, you have totally changed my mind by calling the president this name, or calling Pelosi this name, or by posting this terrible meme, or by posting that terrible meme. I mean, if you've done that, please send me an example, because I'd love to see it, because I've never seen that actually happen before in my life. And so, politics, I bring up politics as it relates to this, this whole new year. And really, it's kind of the lowest hanging of the fruit. I think it's what's going to be the most divisive. It's going to divide all of us all the way up until November, when it's finally over. But even the way politics is now, when it's over, it's not really over. Like it's going to continue on. You would think that it would have been over after the last election, but nope, it's just continued on for 3 years, continuing on for a 4th year, and will continue on after that. So that's just something that we're going to have to deal with, but we really have to decide how we're going to respond to it. How much of your time on this planet are you going to fill with basically hate? Because when we get into these modes, it just becomes almost, who can out-hate the other one? Who can out-hate the other side? So you have a certain amount of time, okay? So for this year, you have this much time on your hands. How much of that are you going to fill with hate? And what I love, the one quote I wanted to throw out here tonight is one, and I mean, I know everyone's heard it before, but it's from Dr. King, and it says, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." So just remember, when we are on our social media platforms and when we're really getting into it with the opposing political side, maybe let this one kind of spring into your thought process that maybe your hate is not going to outdo their hate. All right. And their hate certainly isn't going to outdo yours. These are just going to have to be times we're going to need to realize that even though we don't agree with each other, okay, if I'm on one side and you're on the other side, and just because I disagree with you does not mean that I hate you. It does not mean that I think any lesser of you. All it means is we disagree. And so much anymore, people take disagreements as deep-seated hatred that they have for someone, or just, oh my gosh, if you don't agree with me now, you've hated me forever. No, I just don't agree with you. And people don't agree with me all the time. I've seen the numbers on the show tonight. People clearly aren't agreeing with me as they've been doing this all night. That's okay. I don't think people hate me even if they don't enjoy this particular podcast. At least I hope not. And if they do, they'll probably just unfriend me. And that's okay, because I'm not going to hate on them. But it's this season. And as you can probably tell, I am more than a little worried about it. I am more than a little worried about how people are going to act as we get closer and closer and closer to election time. It's a legitimate concern, only because I see how bad it is now. And so I was going to go on a little more about that, but I don't want to beat a dead horse. What I do want to say now, I got a message from a viewer. Okay, there we go. Whew. I did want to bring this up. I'm going to cut short in one area to add to another one that just happened right before I came on with the show tonight. So we all know, and again, I'm not making this political, we all know the situation that happened in Iran and the, we'll call it the strategic missile launch that took out one of the terrorist leaders. Okay, so we all know about that. But what I just saw before I came on is now there's some retaliation. And so there's some nonsense going on over in the Middle East. And whatever your personal opinion about it is, that's fine. Have it. I don't even need to know it. That's fine. But what we can all agree on, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, is the safety of our military personnel overseas. They are currently under attack. The extent of it, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to be in the know on their situation. But bombs are falling. They're being shot in our direction. So let's all just please say a prayer if that's your thing. Happy juju if that's your thing. A good thought. Whatever, we can all agree that the safety of our military personnel is of the utmost importance during this time. And so, as for me, I'll be saying a prayer for them tonight and their safety, but just keep them in your minds as whatever is going on is going on. And they're going to deal with that, and people smarter than me are going to deal with that. And that's going to be kind of how this one ends. So I had that pop up. I wanted to make sure I mentioned it. So now just some real quick, because it's our first show of the year, and I've already, beaten politics into the ground. Just a few things that I want to make sure that we focus on here. Again, I want your feedback for this season. It's uber important. Second, well, I had second. Now second went and left my mind. Well, there's a few things. I was going to let you guys know that, we do have other social media platforms that we're trying to make more interactive. Instagram is a big one. If you're not a fan of our Instagram account, then please follow it. It's just HTW Pod. That would be super cool, and you would be the first to see each Monday's Muggin' Monday, because that's where it gets posted first. And if you're not familiar with Muggin' Monday, if you are a new listener, it is something we started years ago to combat the negativity of social media, and I just post a new mug every Monday, what I'm drinking my coffee out of. You guys post your mugs. We say, oh, that's a cool looking mug, or man, I have that mug too, or whatever your situation is, and it's kind of fun. It's stuck around. I even did that. I was doing that before I did the podcast, the old podcast and this podcast. So that's another thing. So yeah, please share your thoughts, your opinions, topics you want to talk about. Again, this show has migrated throughout its history. We started as the Christian-based show for divorced men. Then it was divorced people. And then the married people said, hey, what about us? So it was just kind of an all-encompassing relationship type thing. And then we moved away from that. We went to troubles in the church. We went to just the hot topics of the day, politics, sports. We've been all over the place. So really, this is now just kind of this big variety act that we do every Tuesday night. And you guys can be as much a part of it as you want to be. And I would love to know what's on your mind and what you want to talk about. And I'm always looking for guests as well. So that's going to do it for our first episode. I'm not going to try and stretch this out. You guys learned that last season. When I'm done talking, I'm going to be done talking. And if it's not 30 minutes, it's not 30 minutes. So please send us anything for the show that you want to talk about, suggestions you have, or just tell people how much you like the new background. I think the new background is pretty cool looking, right? I mean, it's an American flag, so that's totally me. It's a wall. That's totally the show. Huh. Somebody was thinking when they placed this order. So please, here's what you need to do for me. Like, comment, share this on Facebook. The more people you share it to, the more who will like the show, the more we can get the word out there. And then don't forget, we are also on all your favorite podcast carriers, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, Spreaker, YouTube. We're at all of them. So please download us. Take us with you wherever you may go. Listen a lot. Give me all the views. Give me all the likes. Give me all the listens. I don't know. Something. It's always helpful. So anyway, that's going to do it. Thank you guys very much for coming back for this season 2. I know we're just kind of easing into everything, just getting rolling here. But here's to another season that we can't do without your support. So thank you very much. Everyone have yourselves a safe week. We'll be back same time, same place next Tuesday. And like I started saying last time, and it's still uber important because we've had more examples of this being bad, don't text and drive. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week. Good night, everybody.
Did you know that you could talk to Kyle when he records his shows? Tune in to the live recordings of Hitting the Wall on Facebook Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time and say hi.